I've become obsessed with birds lately. So for years now, I've reveled in their carefree songs as though they exist all day just to sing praises to God. But working from home, I've positioned a couple of bird feeders off of my deck. And in the mornings, I'll sit in silence and prayer and reading and sip my tea and watch all the birds come to the feeder. We've got a woodpecker that kind of hangs on the bottom upside down while he eats. He's very silly that way. And a couple of cardinals, some mourning doves, various finches. We've got a couple of titmouses, or is it titmice? I don't know what the plural is. Cowbirds and a few others. But the most social and brave of all the birds who will sit there, even if I'm sitting out on the deck 3 feet away from it, is a bird called the chipping sparrow. And he stops by often, and he's just not at all fazed. And I look at him curiously, and he looks back at me curiously, moving his head around. So thinking about my new little friend, tonight, the hymn I've picked is "His Eye is on the Sparrow." So this hymn was written by Civilla Martin in 1905 and was set to music by Charles Gabriel, a famous gospel composer at that time. I first heard this hymn in the movie Sister Act 2 when it came out in 1993. It's been recorded extensively over the years, particularly usually by gospel singers. So it is a gospel hymn that's performed by somebody who's got some soul to their voice. And as my husband once said to me, "Honey, you can sing, but you ain't got no soul." And he's right. So I know that I'm not going to do this one quite justice, but I really, really love the words, and I think the words are something that we could all use right now. So according to the United Methodist Church Discipleship Ministry site, which is a treasure trove for hymnology, if you want to know the history to any hymn, that's where you want to go. Civilla Martin said this of the genesis of this song. "Early in the spring of 1905, my husband and I were sojourning in Elmira, New York. We contracted a deep friendship for a couple by the name of Mr. and Mrs. Doolittle, true saints of God. Mrs. Doolittle had been bedridden for nigh 20 years. Her husband was an incurable cripple who had to propel himself to and from his business in a wheelchair. Despite their afflictions, they lived happy Christian lives, bringing inspiration and comfort to all who knew them. One day, while we were visiting with the Doolittles, my husband commented on their bright hopefulness and asked them for the secret of it. Mrs. Doolittle's response was simple. 'His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me.' The beauty of this simple expression of boundless faith gripped the hearts and fired the imagination of Dr. Martin and me. The hymn, 'His Eye is on the Sparrow,' was the outcome of that experience." That's a great genesis for this song. Just a wonderful, wonderful sentiment. Jesus said, as recorded in Matthew 6, verses 26 and 27, "Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to the span of his life?" And how appropriate that the loon is chiming on the cuckoo clock at this very moment. Yet another bird adding to all of this. Jesus also said in Matthew chapter 10, verses 29 through 31, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? And not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. But even the hairs on your head are all numbered. Fear not. Therefore, you are of more value than many sparrows." We can rest soundly in his care, full of confidence and faithful assurance of his love, his presence, and his provision. We can be like my new little sparrow friend and face the giants that others think might destroy us, but they won't, and we can face them with absolutely no fear. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me, and I know he watches you too. Enjoy.
Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven and home? I sing.